to our final panel, where we're going to discuss very briefly the prices of what to buy in each region. We've asked our chamber member, John Mather from Émigré EU, to come on stage and talk you through the research he's done into the difference in living costs between Portugal and the UK. John currently lives in Madeira. He'll tell you why in a minute. But John, come and tell us more.
Good afternoon. I'm being told to get off before I get on. All right. Émigré. Well, it started effectively as a hobby. I was just helping a few people to buy well within Portugal, because in fact, if I asked, who is here for the first time? Well, I was sitting in your seat 6 years ago and started this journey. But I found the process not like the UK. I found there were anomalies that were needed to be handheld through the process. And I think it's necessary to have a body looking after you through all of the processes, rather than dealing with different silo problems. Now, we were doing this on a pro bono basis and a bit of fun meeting with people.
Forgive me, you're going to have to speak closer to the microphone because I can't hear you. Really close. Sorry.
But the Sunday Times picked up on one of the people that we'd helped, and we got some glowing report, which was pleasant. And then we got some inquiries. So we then decided, fine, forget my retirement, I'll actually go set up in business again. So that's what we did. So what I'm warning you about is that really, when you're buying the property, who are you taking the advice from? Does it seem slightly absurd that the person charged with getting the best price for the house, or the vendor, is actually somebody you actually take advice from? I think that you need somebody acting on your behalf, and then making sure that they liaise with the real estate agent. So we're not displacing the real estate agent, we're acting on behalf of the other side of the contract. Very important to do this. Have somebody present on island doing the research, because you're likely to do quite sharp visits, short visits. Wouldn't it be good if actually somebody dismissed 90% of the dross that you don't need to look at? In a recent case, I looked at 40 properties for a couple. I narrowed it down to 10. We looked at 8 and bought number 3. The whole of that process of their time was within 6 days of landing in the island. We had their tax organised, their bank organised, the lawyers introduced, all done for them. So we just dealt with the concierge side of it. And I'm charging 1%, I'll tell you that now, of the finished value of the acquisition. If I can't save you 5 times what I cost you, I don't know what I'm doing to have your money back. So it's nice and simple. Quite often the best bargains aren't actually on the market. Going knocking on doors where people we know have got boards up is actually quite a good way of finding property. So, property prices as well, we need to look at, because this can actually boost your retirement savings dramatically, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But let's start with some practicalities and some home truths. How long are you planning for? Well, longevity we know is going up, but if we take this population here, all age 65, single male, single female, and a couple, well, you've got a 50% chance of getting to 85, 88, and 92. And a 25% chance of getting well into your 90s. So whatever we're doing, we're planning for the next 30 years. That's what we're doing. It's not a short trip. You're unlikely to be moving quickly again and making such a major move ever. So we need to be careful. Have a look at the cost of living. Now, I spent 5 trips going north to south, up and down Portugal, and for me, not for everybody, I found Madeira with year-round sunshine, no effective winter. I never want to be cold again. Suited my purposes. There are also some extra tax breaks in Madeira for corporate situations. For instance, 5% corporation tax till 27. Beats the, and so I've migrated a couple of companies as well while we've been doing this. Let's look at the cost of living compared generally with the UK. These are 2019 figures. I need to adjust them for the last year once things have stabled a bit. But effectively, overall, you're getting about a 30% reduction in cost of living for basics. Between London and Funchal, it's even better. It's nearly a 50% change in pricing. Nearly 50%.
Funchal being the capital of Madeira. Sorry, just to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, sorry. If you look, next year is my 50th year in the financial planning business, which is my background. If we look at clients around about 55, stable economies, basically their profile money-wise is about 40% of their total income goes on basics, on fundamentals, 20% goes on tax, 20% on savings, and you get what's important, the discretionary income is around about 20%. Now, things are changing. If we take into a cost of living, look at the cost of living and the impact on the discretionary spend, that money that's left over when you've spent everything else at the end of the month. In moving to Madeira, where I am, the discretionary spending doubles. I've now got 40% of gross income available for discretionary spending. If I then take on top of that the cost of the tax, of the savings on tax, my discretionary spend goes up to 55% of income. So that's quite significant and really worthwhile considering. You could stay in the UK, and this is roughly how 2021 works in the distribution of tax. Well, the bottom 22 million people don't pay any income tax at all. Those in the basic rate band, between 12,500 and 50,000, they pay, those 27 million people pay a third of all the income tax. The next band, the higher rate taxpayers between 50 and 150, there's 4,200,000 of those. They pay a third of all income tax. And there are 481,000 in Britain who earn over more than 150,000. They pay the other third. This band, when I came into the business in 1973, they were paying 11% of all tax. The rich have been squeezed enough, and the rich are capable of moving out much more than the poor. That's going to hit the middle bands. So next, is it the 27th, the budget? When that happens, let's have a look at what clues there are and what might motivate you to actually move to Portugal a little bit sooner rather than later. We've got more debt in this country than we had at the end of World War II, and somebody's got to pay it back. That chap is not your friend. Let's have a look about investments as well. Markets. Well, if we go back to the beginning of the century, the FTSE last week, when I did this slide, was actually back to where it was 21 years ago. It was at 6,900 back in 2000, and it's got this rather bumpy ride all the way through. That's where we are today. So would you really invest in that market going sideways? Particularly if you're a resident in Portugal. Have a look at the German market, obviously expressed in euros rather than pounds. That market itself has doubled in that period. So again, think about changing your mind and your habits on where you're investing. How about the other two factors? Inflation. It's been pretty steady at around 3% since 2000 in Britain. So if something you spent £1.67 on in 2000 will now cost you just over £3. And the other problem, of course, to deal with is currency. In 2000, you would have got €1.70 to your pound. Now you're at 1.70, in fact 1.66 at the moment, in the last hour. So think again about how you hold your savings, where your money is coming from, because the old habits could be dangerous. It's not all bad news for Britain. Housing. I can buy a very good house around the 2,300 to 2,600 euros a square metre. And British housing is more expensive. So when I moved out to Wimpole Street, where I lived 6 years ago, we were getting 17,000 euros a square metre. Ridiculous, isn't it? How something could be worth that much money. In North Finchley, where we're selling another property at the moment, 9,000 euros a square metre. If you can move from 9,000 to 2,300, and buy the same house, for instance, you've got a lot of fun tickets to actually have some fun with and to reorder your finances. So if you live in any one of the postcodes that I've mapped here that are red, you will finish up with more money in your pocket at the end of the transaction than when you started. So unless you're living in Grimsby, you're going to be okay when this transaction happens. So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun today as well. 21 years ago, there was a really good vintage of Madeira wine that came up, worth around €100. If in fact you fill out one of our inquiry forms and just have a look at the priorities that might fit you, that we could actually help you solve, and just pop those into the champagne bucket at the end. And we'll be delighted to answer any questions you have.